Remember that time Jeff Goldblum spent like 3/4 of the movie just kind of sitting and or laying? Sexily, no less. Yeah. It's a pretty good movie.
Getting blown by an old guy.
Yeah, clearly, man, it was that one scene that it just seems like they had just had some serious rectal coitus. He and John Hammond, the creator of Jurassic Park, the movie we're talking about today.
Yeah. Hit film.
Now, look, nobody needs to be told anything about Jurassic Park. Everybody in the world has seen this movie and made up their mind about it. And the majority of people have decided that it's a pretty damn good movie. However, you were adamantly anti-Park.
I was hardcore hating.
Or I don't know where you're at. Because, had you seen it before and decided you hated it? Or were you just hating?
I saw like 50% of it on TV and I was like, this sucks.
Well, you don't watch anything on TV, first of all. I'm saying, like, don't.
Yeah.
Not never. You don't, but, you obviously do.
Yeah.
But couch potato joke, in case you didn't get that. Hashtag old guy joke.
Yeah,
anyway.
Hashtag good one, dude.
Hashtag ouch. For me. Anyway, so you had decided based on a 50% viewing that you absolutely hated this. I remember your vehement hatred for
hardcore.
I don't even know what was it. What was it that you hated?
I remember I was thoroughly annoyed by the by Newman.
Wayne Knight?
Yeah. And like there was this one scene which in my mind is atrocious, but seeing it again I was like, damn homie, it didn't even happen. Where like the dinosaurs' little bills come out. And in my mind, one of them like didn't go down. It was going all janky and
just
shit.
Flapping.
And then we saw it, and I was like, "Damn it! It went down all the way."
So you made up a narrative of basically
suckitude, yeah.
All right, so it's gonna be interesting to talk about this movie because this is the first time you've seen it since you 50% saw it, I guess.
Yeah.
TV version. You already know where I stand on this movie. This one, did this come out before? I always get it mixed up. I'm pretty sure Terminator 2 came out first, right?
T2 came out first, and they were like, damn, dude, we could use that shit.
Yeah, no shit. So, yeah, T2 and Jurassic Park were the first two movies I saw in the theater. And I can never remember which one's first, so I guess this was the second. But I remember that experience clearly, even though clearly I have no sense of time when I was a child.
Apparently.
But I remember that experience clearly. Not just because I rarely, as a child, went to the theater, but because it was such an event. And I remember the thrill of watching this fucking thing. And I remember getting out of the theater and there was just like this electricity, I guess, in the air. Everybody. It was just like humming and then conversing, which you rarely see, people that don't even know each other talking to each other. This was a big fucking deal when this movie came out. And, it's one of those movies that I think, of course, Spielberg directed this movie, and it's such a, he's such a big name, obviously. But I think this is like, in my opinion, I know a lot of people's opinions are going to differ on this, but in my opinion, this is the last Spielberg movie where he directed the type of film that he directed. I'm sorry, the type of film that made him famous. I think post Jurassic Park 1, he never was the same director. He's a different kind of director now. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he can't direct the same type of movies he directed in the 80s and up to Jurassic Park. He just can't anymore. He doesn't possess that ability. He lost it.
BFG's pretty good.
Yeah, just look at BFG, aka Big Fucking Grape.
Go
right?
Ned.
A big fucking gonad. What's it called? Ready Player One, though we enjoyed it, it just doesn't have the magic that his old 80s stuff, 70s, late 70s, 80s stuff had, and up to Jurassic Park. I think that was the last, that was the death knell of the era of like almost childhood wonder and awe being put on screen. But it's one hell of a way to go, in my opinion. That's always been my opinion. And seeing this movie, this is the first time I've seen it in a long fucking time, because Guardian, who used to be our compatriot here, would always be like, let's watch it so that you can see it fully. And it was just like a constant, like, well, so when's this going to happen?
I'm telling you, I was hardcore hating.
Yeah. Was it you throwing a wrench in the works?
Yeah, I was like, dude. And then I read the book, and I was like, damn, homie, that's not going to live up to a book. So instead of making it me going like, I got to see this, I was actually more like, nah, I'm good.
I always thought it was Guardian throwing the wrench in the works.
Me, dude. I was like, dude, it's Jurassic Park, homie.
and you even had it.
Newman wasn't.
Yeah, this is your copy, by the way.
I got it in the Dollar Tree. Hashtag Dollar Tree.
So you didn't even want to support the park.
Nah,
Not that it needs it, but anyway.
I was like, I gotta get a Dollar Tree.
All right, so let's talk about this thing. It's one of the few books you've read, so that's unique for you.
Michael Crichton, classic.
Crichton has this unique ability to make events in his books incredibly realistic, believable, steeped in science that's credible, because a lot of it is feasible. And so he creates a very distinct feeling on top of the wonder and awe that, you know, the type of materials he tackles usually brings. Or tackled, I should say. He has passed away. But anyway, do you think that has been duplicated here in some sense or another? Lay it on me.
I think for the most part, yeah. I think so. It's actually surprisingly, I don't want to say loyal, but it surprisingly follows the beats pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like a few scenes missing here and there, and they obviously condense a lot of the, you know, explanations and a lot of the 50 chapters on how one thing works into like a line or two, but it works for a movie. And you know, unfortunately, we don't get to see Newman's bloody corpse, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. As far as the scientific chatter, I mean, that's just an example of good screenplay adaptation. You know, they really knew how to condense what is essentially dense scientific chatter down to something that's consumable, not only by those people that have read the book and want to hear the technical aspect, but by the masses, which, you know, are the hardest people to please because they're usually unwashed heathens.
Yeah.
So they did all that in a way that comes across incredibly well. And like almost every Crichton book, ages very well. Because, again, it's rooted in stuff that we can feasibly do and or, you know, toy with in the actual scientific world. Not us, of course, as we are
unwashed heathens.
Unwashed peons of the mind. And heathens, too, yeah. Fuck it. But anyway. And, yeah, like you say, there are a few changes here and there. Usually superficial. There's a... You know, there is a typical of Spielberg. It's Spielberg-ized in some senses. You know, like Hammond is not a villainous character as he is in the book. The violence is toned down dramatically. Yeah. There's some excisions of certain scenes that would have been cool to see, but when you think about it in terms of the screenplay, you know that they were just going to be scenes that ultimately were money pits. You know, there's a few dino encounters that they don't.
Yeah, the raptor stuff at the end is altered.
Yeah, so on top of just dinosaurs that you just don't see in the movie. But that doesn't make a lesser product. It's actually pretty impressive because it's a really good combination of Crichton's book and, again, that skill and ability that Spielberg had for this kind of material. So what he does, maybe more than Crichton did, was create almost like a magical feel to I mean, the build-up in this is pretty fucking great. You know what I'm saying? And even though the effect for the first official dinosaur that you see hasn't aged very well, it's still a great moment. You know what I'm saying? It's still like I was sitting there and I still like it transported me back in time. Like I felt when I was a kid. Like, oh, this is amazing. Like this would be, because typical of Spielberg and at his height of his powers, he could put you in the seat of adventure and again awe-inspiring scenes, and you could feel that thrill. You could understand the characters' feelings, and of course the actors here emoted incredibly well, so that, and they're so well defined, even though we get brief introductions to them, they're so well defined that you know you can empathize with where they're at mentally and all that stuff. So it's a really thrilling thing to experience. So there's that. Give me something, man.
I do want to say, since you mentioned it, you know, everybody always says that the effects stand up to time. These digital effects in particular. I was worried because in the first shot, all I had to say in my mind was stinky visually. It just looked like a nutsack texture stretched over, stretched over some legs and a neck, and I was like, "Oh no, these are bad." I mean, the scene it works, mind you, like you said, and you know you get what it's going for, but visually, just on an effects level, I was like, "Damn, homie, that's straight caca."
Yeah.
Thankfully that for the most part that's the only one that looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think for the most part they're all pretty decent. I think maybe the one where they're running with the other dinosaurs, that's a little weak looking. They pop out. But like in the T-Rex scene, it looks surprisingly good. They make good use of like lighting and the water texture and everything looks good for the most part. It's just that one opening first shot, you're like, "Oh, Fushi nutsacks." At least I was.
And it's really a weird choice to go full digital on that one. I mean, I don't see any fucking animatronic work there. Maybe there was, but if it was definitely covered in digital texture.
Yeah, nutsack texture.
And but I'll tell you this: back in the day when you saw that, it was still impressive. One, CGI wasn't that advanced back then, so when we saw stuff like T2 and this, it was like, whoa, mind blowing.
And I'll even say that, like, in the later scenes, like, especially in the T-Rex scene, it was actually kind of really impressive. They got to do that on, you know, potato computers.
Yeah. And of course, with later scenes, you do have the fact that it's assisted by, it's a combination, basically, of CGI and animatronics. So, of course, the animatronic work came from Stan Winston Studios, among others, and it's top fucking notch. You know, real looking, tangible creatures. But yes, an odd choice at that beginning. But I don't think the scene loses anything, and that's mostly due to the fact that it's built up this thing so well, and the characters, as aforementioned, you're so in their shoes that you can feel what they're feeling, and that really is what sells it. And I think that the shot right after it, where you see the Brax, in the pond, and then
hanging out,
I think that like nails
that
it.
Should have been the scene.
It's a really great shot. It just evokes something that I think, like, as kids when we visit zoos and shit like that, it's like kind of like what we imagine. The animals that are clearly sad to be there. Yeah, we just imagine majesty of nature rather than...
Instead of dead freaking tigers with skunks spraying their faces.
Rather than people
actually happened.
People throwing, their used corn cups on top of gators and shit. We as kids just see things...
We're feeding koi pennies.
Oh, that's a classic, isn't it? Yeah, we just see... we see the majesty of nature. And this is, I think... one of the strongest thematics in the movie that translates incredibly fucking well. The idea of nature being this immutable force that will do as it does, and it does here. It runs rampant. Kind of like science gone mad will get its comeuppance. This is kind of like a neo. Frankensteinian story, only with dinosaurs.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's one of the things that got kind of trimmed. Mm-hmm. There's an Asian character in the book who I think is in the movie. I think that's who he was supposed to be, who is like kind of a much bigger character, and there's this kind of like drama between him and Hammond, and him being clearly evil. And all that stuff's kind of taken out, but it doesn't lose what it was done in the book.
They basically left all that baggage on Ian Malcolm's character, and it's amazing what a few lines of dialogue and an actor that can translate that idea across can do, because it permeates the movie. It's like a cautionary tale, and yet this big adventure. So I think that mixed with this childhood-like view of the majesty of the natural world is what makes this movie feel magical. It feels substantially magical, Like, this is a movie that I cannot not see without childhood eyes, It's just, I can't. So that's an achievement. You know, it's never lost that ability to put me there, to transport me there. So,
despite the nutsack.
Yeah, despite the initial Nutsack Brack.
Nutsack Brack, that's
actually how he's credited. Yeah. Nutsack Brack.
He's a real guy. It's a weird thing.
Played by Nagasundeep's keyboard.
Damn, homie.
Anyway, give me something, man. Good, bad?
I think the Goldblum's pretty great in this.
Yeah, that's universally agreed upon. I mean, they've erected statues to his grandness.
Homie's just like, man, y'all lick the whole time. And he's pretty great. But also, our boy, Alan Grant, that's right, his name. That's the actor's name. He's my boy, dude.
Yeah, Sam Neill's pretty fucking great. I've always preferred Alan Grant over Ian Malcolm.
Damn, homie.
That's just facts. He is a better character. Sue me. Hashtag make that shirt.
Damn, sue me?
Yeah, and it just has a sumo wrestler on it. And it's me. Sue me.
Naked.
So yeah, he's just a far better character, and of course he's the one we're around the most, and he's the one that has an actual character arc that not only is, relevant to the fucking dinosaur action, but it's personal. And that's ultimately what a lot of people seem to not understand about certain movies. Like, they'll say, like, why does this big fucking action spectacle, I'm not talking about this specific one, but like, what is this big action spectacle movie or this war movie? Why does it need to have a love story? It's because we need something to hook onto, so that's what they do with Alan Grant, only of course not with a love story. It's something that we can,
I don't know, it was that weird 69 scene with the Raptors.
Man, I just totally imagined it. It was magnificent.
It really was.
It was. No, but it's something that we can hook onto and give a shit about on the human level. And he's just damn good, man. He's just a damn good character.
Surprisingly good in this.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that I imagine him when I was reading the book, despite not seeing the movie yet.
Yeah.
It's just because he's my boy.
Yeah, he's fantastic. This was at the height of, I guess this would be the high point of his career in terms of, widespread notoriety. Yeah. Like, probably why he is known to most people. But, hey, man, he deserves more attention, for sure, than he gets.
Yeah, he was in Peter Rabbit.
Well, maybe not on that one. But, anyway, the rest of the cast, we have anybody that you don't like? Nedry, did they change for you?
No, I didn't mind him this time. I mean, he sucks ass, but like he's meant to suck ass, so I was fine with him, and he's kind of funny in his suck assitude. That being said, homie, I mean, I'm not one to speak, but homie was like at his fattest right here, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was fine. I don't know why I hated him.
Yeah, well, what's up with that? He's pretty great.
You know who I hated? Though not because of the actor, just the character. Hammond, dude, I want to punch his nuts.
Yeah, a reason?
He was annoyingly crappy evil.
I mean, he wasn't evil in this.
Yeah, I know, but he was at the same selfish little turd. Whereas in the book, he's just straight up evil, so you're like, alright, he's evil. Good. Here, he's like, damn, this little slimy little piece of shit.
Would you have preferred the evil of the book or this kind of more pedestrian, kind of, everyday, inadvertent, quote unquote evil?
Evil. I would have hated him less.
Reason? I mean, just that's reason?
Yeah.
I just prefer the character in the book.
Yeah, he's more interesting.
He's far more interesting.
He has a lot more like going on with his reasoning and his drive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more interesting scenes
That being said, I think Hammond is one of the reasons that this movie feels like this thing that you're awaiting. He's part of this big buildup. And him being actually engaged in the idea of this fucking thing being a success and seeing him, kind of devastated at the things that are going wrong and him kind of allowing corners to be cut. I think making him not, just like a fucking Bond villain. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? I think that was actually a really good choice for the screen because it makes this movie what it should be or what it is known for. It's part of that reason that it is what it is. had we gone the full on evil route, this would have been a different movie. So while I do prefer that Hammond in the book, I'm glad that Hammond is not in the movie. Would punch? Sure,
I would
I'd punch.
totally punch him. I don't know why I found him way more hateable in this.
I remember as a kid, I hated the kid.
I guess because there's like the obnoxious factor. Like, dude, stop, homie. You know what I mean?
Specifically?
Thrown in, like, this homie's still trying to make shit work. Like, stop, homie. Whereas in the book, you're like, oh, well, he's evil. He's got no choice.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's more complex in the end. He's like in the movie, he's invested not only money, but technically he's invested people's money too, but he's invested his life into this, so it feels more substantive, I guess, to me in the movie. But don't get me wrong, I know what you're saying. It could be annoying, but I kind of like that. I like that.
Hashtag Hammond hate.
Hashtag
should have been uppercutted into those helicopter blades at the end.
Damn, homie. He should.
Right?
Not for any
like
reason
Alan picks him up and just throws him up there?
Not for any other reason other than just to have like this ending that comes out of nowhere. As a kid, I hated Timmy.
Yeah.
Or Tim, I guess. Solely for the reason that his teeth were jacked up as shit.
His grill was...
Those teeth is still jacked up as shit. He should just replace the guy that plays the lead person under the stairs and people under the stairs.
Yeah.
But I don't hate him anymore. Obviously, I still laugh when he gets electrocuted because
homie gets flung, dude.
Yeah, like a piece of crap from a friggin' ape on a tree.
Damn, they should have had apes.
They should have had apes. I mean, obviously, right? Anyway, you mentioned some effects here and there. Or any favorites that stand out, or conversely, besides the nutsack brack, any that you would rather do without?
I think that scene where they're running and that herd, that one's a little weak looking. Mainly because the motion blur looks odd. I'm assuming this was before you could just push a button and motion blur was put in, so they probably had to draw it in, and that's why it looks kind of weird. I think that's like the fakest one, not counting the nutsack brack. So I could have done without that, but it was fine. I think the kind of like intersplicing between the CG and the real thing in the T-Rex scene was surprisingly well done. Even though you could tell, it was really well done. And just the effect in that scene, the CGI, the digital effect looked really good. Also, the music or the sound design in that scene was like really good. Yeah. Everything just went quiet, and you're like, "Damn, homie, this shit's about to go down."
Yeah.
And then it was really tense, and then once the scene ended, some music pumps in, and you're like, "Hell yeah!"
And of course, now that you brought it up, of course, it's one of the legendary Williams scores.
Damn, homie.
And through, it's a fucking great one.
You want a controversial opinion? I kind of dislike the theme.
I don't dislike it, but it is one that as the years have passed, the main theme, right?
Yeah.
It's one that as the years have passed, just like a lot of Williams themes, they're so ingrained in the public consciousness that they become kind of annoying to me, because like I've heard the Imperial March a million times, and they just with the exceptions of the Indiana Jones theme, I've been annoyed by some John Williams themes. Doesn't make them less impressive. It just means that they're so fucking there that you're like, homie,
yeah, a little bit.
Not do this anymore. I think the main theme here is used sparingly.
Yeah, thankfully.
And it is used at very good moments, like when they're coming to the island. That's a good moment. Towards the end, what is it used towards the end? I forgot, but I remember thinking while watching it, like, I could have done without the theme there, But the score throughout, thankfully the main theme's minimally used. The score throughout it's really good, and it really helps with the tension and the, I wouldn't say atmosphere, although I guess at times, but I don't know, man. It just really creates a feeling. You know what I'm saying? Be it wonder or be it excitement, whatever. It's a great score. Period. You know.
Hashtag theme hate.
What are you saying? Like you give the theme a 0?
I would give the theme like a 2.
Damn, homie.
I never liked the theme.
Like, what is this? The Fanatic?
Nah. I mean, it's better than the Fanatic. But I never liked the theme, and that kind of didn't help with the movie. But at least the score's good.
Hate 2008. Even though we're not in 2008 anymore.
Yeah, that was a good one, dude. That was a good zing.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Timely zing.
And give me something, Time Lord.
I could. Well, no. I'm fine that they didn't have all the gory shit because it wouldn't have fit into this movie.
Yeah, and it would have made a completely different feeling again.
Yeah.
Just like the Hammond being a villain thing. It would have been a different movie. And I'm not saying it would have been like a gore fest, horror movie type of thing. But yeah, it would just created a completely different feeling to it. Even if everything else stayed the same, like the feeling, excessive violence or gore would have clashed horribly with it. Yeah. So
that being said, they should have had Hammond get gutted by Raptor.
Clearly.
Hashtag hate.
It's a good compromise, and that's kind of rare sometimes. And so that's the thing. Now, you mentioned that in the book ends kind of abruptly. So what did you think of the ending here?
I thought surprisingly the ending was way better done here. Because in the book there's this kind of climax, and then there's this continuing, like the climax happens and then there's an additional scene with raptors, and then they're just off the island, and that's it. If I remember correctly, there's like a 2-page like what happened after or whatever, but
prologue.
Yeah, it doesn't really help.
Yeah, the what happened after.
Yeah, the what happened after, I think it's called.
Jurassic Park.
But I remember that being so weird because it was the book was so well paced and so built up so well, and there was this like massive build up, and then the scene ends, and then there's this kind of additional scenes that feels out of place, and then it just ends. Yeah,
it is rather odd. I mean, prologues are normal, but this is just a particularly weird one. So yeah, a way better. It actually feels like an ending in the movie, and at the same time, it leaves the door open, which unfortunately means you get Jurassic Park 2, which to be fair, I haven't seen since the 90s, but I hated it back then. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm always up for giving it a fair shot. Never liked it. So, in my eyes, so far, this is the only good Jurassic Park movie. It's the only one that has this feeling for damn sure.
Part 3 has that talking raptor.
Yeah, but it's everything else is not cool.
Hashtag talking raptor.
Talking raptors do not save the day. I say this. It couldn't even save itself by reintroducing Sam Neill. Although I don't hate Jurassic Park 3, but yeah, when even Sam Neill can't save the day, you got something's wrong with your picture. His name is Joe Johnston.
Oh damn, homie, for real?
Yeah.
So like half of it's good and the rest sucks.
It has that feeling for sure. Like this is some good stuff here, but then you're like, it could have been better. It definitely has that feeling. And I remember feeling, again, this is part 3 we're talking about. I remember the end being like, oh wait, it's over? That would have been a cool movie. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, definitely that doesn't happen here because pretty much you get a cool movie throughout. So let's give it. What is this? I'm literally yawning like a fucking raptor over here.
I can't freaking yawn now?
Raptors yawn, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they're known for.
Anyway, final thoughts and the final score now that you've seen all of it versus 50% on a shitty boob tube.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was not expecting to like it. I was expecting to hate.
You're well renowned for your hate. Nowadays.
Yeah, I still don't like Spielberg. I think he's an asshole. I have no reason to think that, but I just think he's The douche star, dude. The douche star has never proved me wrong so far.
I have no opinions on Spielberg as a man, as a person. Like, I've never formulated an opinion.
It's coming, dude.
As a director, I think he's directed some great movies, obviously. I also think he's directed a lot of shitty movies.
Yeah.
And or mediocre movies. Especially in his latter career. Like, AI sucks. I know a lot of people like it, but I would have preferred... Really, I wouldn't even care if Stanley Kubrick was alive and did it with him, because the Spielberg factor would have softened the material anyway. So, yeah, I don't like it. BFG? Come on, man.
Yeah, big fundillo, gay.
You know, big fucking gun so I could shoot that fucking movie, man.
Damn, homie, crossover BFG and Doom.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of BFG, but I am a fan of the BFG destroying all copies on Earth.
Yeah,
selectively. Yeah, he's a good director, obviously, but he doesn't make this type of movie anymore. Well, you know what I'm saying? And so my opinion is that he was a great director of the fantastic.
How did this go back to your opinion? It was my wrap up.
Well, you brought it up, so I'm just rolling with it. He was a great director of the fantastic. He is no longer a great director of the fantastic. But he's a great director of drama now, so that's the thing, right?
Yeah. Hashtag Spielberg hate. Hashtag freaking Hammond should have died. But that being said, I like the movie quite a bit. That nutsack Brack is not good though. Stop lying, people. It looks like butt. It's okay.
Who's saying that looks great?
Everybody's like, dude, that first shot is like amazing. I'm like,
I think they're talking about the feeling
of the shot.
and
the effect.
I've never heard anyone go, that's a great effect.
I literally just got done watching a video that said they were like, that effect is like groundbreaking, which might have been, but it looks like feces.
It is groundbreaking. That you can't deny.
Groundbreaking though it may be, nutsack is what it looks like. So, I gotta take a point off for the nutsack Brack. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I'll give it like a. I feel like I can't give it past a 9, like a 9. So I'm gonna give it an 8.5. This is factoring in my hate.
Yeah, your
my pre-hate.
Your wellspring of hate.
Yeah,
that's like the status quo now.
I'm telling you, dude, freaking Spielberg.
What does that? Well, now what does that have to do with it? That's like if you're. What's a good example? Well, I mean that's a really bad example in the sense that it's too good an example, and so I won't bring it up. But anyway, the point is, I'm just talking the movie here. Let's factor out the Spielberg factor. Let's pretend that somebody that you like.
I still have to give it an 8.5.
Okay, well that's all. I
have no attachment. Like, I didn't grow up with this movie, so I'm kind of just looking at it through me watching this for the first time. It's an 8.5.
8. Anyway,
8.5 is good.
Shut up. It's an 8.5 for me too.
Yeah, see?
Asshole. Anyway, that's it. That's an 8.5.
Wasn't that Zach Brack?
No, it's just it's a great movie. I think it's a great capstone to his first stage of his career. It's a movie it's a milestone. Period. It's an undeniable classic, and to deny its classic status is downright foolish. But unlike Star Wars: A New Hope, which is not a great movie, this one is. So while I can easily give Star Wars: A New Hope a fucking 4 and not blink an eye, I would never do that to Jurassic Park. And it has nothing to do with my nostalgia, by the way. That's just part of the fun. The fact that I can still feel like a child watching it. I watched Star Wars: A New Hope as a child too. You know what my reaction was? Dead face and heart. Anyway,
God damn, homie.
Let us know what you think about Jurassic Park. Obviously, you love it, and if you don't, let us know why. That would be interesting to know. Anyway, we're out. Hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons. This is leaning.
What? Why are you so bothered by everything I do today?
I don't know. You're the one that...
We were literally watching the movie, and I was choking to death, and you're like, "What is this?" And
yeah.
I'm like,
You weren't choking to death. You were going on choking to death, quote unquote, for 10 hours.
That's just...
It actually spanned 5 movies, and we're like, what is this?
I couldn't breathe, homie. And you're all like, damn, freaking inconvenienced by my life leaking from my freaking veins, homie.
I was like, man, this dude, I can't even hear the movie. His death throes.
Like, what is this?
Anyway, let us know what you think about this movie, man. Hit like, subscribe, and notifications button.